Well, hello, everybody. Today we have with us two guests. First, we have with us Ashli Watts, who is the president and CEO of the State of Kentucky Chamber of Commerce. Thanks, Ashli, for giving us some of your time today.
Thanks for having me.
You bet. And we also have with us your board chair, Winston Griffin, who is the CEO of Laurel Grocery there in Laurel County. And thank you, sir, for your time as well.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
You bet. So you both are in leadership roles of the largest, really, Chamber of Commerce in the Commonwealth. Maybe before we get into the topics, just briefly touch on maybe first your all's backgrounds and as well as the organizations you lead. So Ashli, I'll let you go first.
Great, thank you. I have been president and CEO here at the Kentucky Chamber for just a little over a year. So I had a couple months under my belt before COVID-19 hit, but I've been here at the Kentucky Chamber for about 9 years now. And prior to my role as president and CEO, I was the senior vice president of public affairs, spearheading the lobbying, advocacy, and communications portions of the chamber. And I've been here in Frankfort for many years. I worked before that at the Kentucky Bar Association and the Legislative Research Commission. And I went to school at Campbellsville University and then got a master's degree at U of L. And originally I am from Elizabethtown, and I now live here in Frankfort with my husband and my 2 children.
Fantastic. Now, Winston, you have some roots also in Northern Kentucky, but give us a little bit about your background and organization.
Yes, I'm the CEO of Laurel Grocery Company, which is a family-owned independent wholesale grocer. So we sell to independent grocery stores in Kentucky and surrounding states. So we're basically the distributor to grocery stores who are not chained. So a lot of IGAs and all independent grocery stores. So it started in East Bernstadt, Kentucky, just outside of London, and that's where I live now. And I do have some Northern Kentucky roots. I attended Chase Law School and lived in Northern Kentucky for 3 years. And then after that, I moved to Nashville and got an MBA from Vanderbilt and then came back to London. So it's a pleasure to be here today with you. Absolutely.
Well, you both are leading an organization that is unbelievably tasked in this time with COVID. Maybe for a moment or two, Ashli, maybe you could give us a sense of what are your members telling you? We know that some businesses were shut down, some continue to have, requirements that are unlike ever before. What are you seeing from your membership?
Yeah, the last 9 to 10 months has really just been a lot of uncertainty and a lot of questions. Obviously, there were questions about the shutdown, and then there were questions about federal loans and unemployment insurance. And I think what we at the Chamber have really tried to do is just help all businesses, small and large, everything in between, navigate all of this the last couple of months. Things change every single day. I was saying earlier, we went from talking a lot about unemployment insurance, which is obviously very important, liability reform surrounding COVID-19, to right now we're hearing a lot about vaccinations and how do businesses kind of get in line for vaccinations, who's essential, who's not. So every single day, we're just trying to help businesses navigate this new world in which we're living. I think we see the light at the end of the tunnel, hopefully in the next couple of months, but we do have a legislative session coming up where we will be pushing advocacy efforts around giving businesses some relief post-COVID-19.
Great point. So unbelievable advocacy, unlike ever before, sharing of information and trying to connect the dots, I guess, for your membership to all the resources across the country, really.
Absolutely.
So Winston, you've now been chairman for a while, but what are you seeing from your perspective leading the board?
Well, there's been just a huge shift in our focus, of course. I've only been chair a couple of months, but was named incoming chair a year ago. And, no one knew that we were going to be anywhere near this kind of position so quickly. And one of the major changes that's happened at the chamber is all of the events that we normally have either been canceled or postponed or moved to online. And that's a huge revenue stream, of course, that keeps the chamber going. Mm-hmm. And I will have to hand it to Ashli and all the staff there that they basically became a PPP outlet. So the chamber was the source for all of that necessary equipment for many, many businesses. And it really helped the chamber progress, and then it also took care of a lot of members all across the state. So it's just been unlike anything, of course, any of us have ever been through. But the chamber is thriving, and I will say the other unique aspect of this is our close relationship with the governor's office in a lot of these decisions that have coming from Frankfurt have kind of been passed by Ashli for discussion. So we've had a really good working relationship with the governor's office during all of this. Not that we didn't before, but it's just been more intense, I believe, than ever because we've all been thrown into this this horrible situation.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that those who maybe might watch this who are not owners of businesses, but surely every one of us who has a job, we know that without those businesses, we don't have our jobs. So, in the worry that individuals have as their family, there's a lot of worry on the business leadership side, right? I mean, from the beginning of this on through, how do you keep your business surviving? And then dealing with your elected officials to try and make sure that everyone's trying to learn and be respectful of perspective there. So let's talk about a little bit of the issues that you all during COVID here and as the upcoming session. What are so important maybe to the issues for businesses in Kentucky, Ashli?
Yeah, and so we are facing a 30-day legislative session where the legislature is going to have to craft a one-year budget. So it's going to be kind of a race to the finish to see kind of what we can do in 30 days. So there is a lot to unpack there. There is quite a bit of policy that needs to be passed to make sure that we all can recover from this last year. So the Kentucky Chamber, we've really kind of narrowed our focus and our legislative asks on a road to recovery, making sure that businesses can really recover in the best way over the next couple of years. And so our top three kind of asks and our top three agenda items, one is going to be increased infrastructure investment. And I think you all in Northern Kentucky, obviously with the issue of the Brent Spence Bridge, know the importance of sound infrastructure. I think it is 3% of the nation's GDP crosses your bridge every day. And so that obviously has an economic impact when you can't cross that bridge. So we'll be fighting for that along with the cities and the counties and other groups. And then also liability reform around COVID-19. We are seeing people that are trying to sue their employer, their school, any sort of business of where they think they may have contracted COVID-19. And here in Kentucky, we've had really strict guidelines, healthy at work guidelines, CDC guidelines that businesses have had to follow. And so we feel very strongly that if businesses follow those guidelines, there should be some protection in that. And then lastly, unemployment insurance. We know we had one of the highest rates of unemployment in the nation this last year, and our trust fund, which is where the money comes from to pay the people that need it, has been dwindled down to zero. We had to get a fairly large loan from the federal government, about $800 million. And the way we pay that back is by taxes on employers. And so we're working closely with the governor's office and the legislature to try to find some sort of resolution to that in the next couple of months so that as we come out of this and we're starting to get our economy back and back on track, employers won't be hit with a huge tax increase come early 2021. So those are kind of our top three asks. There's more, of course, but in a short session, those are the things that we really need to get done.
Well, and no pun intended, but that's really where the rubber meets the road on this. And the first item being that infrastructure need, Brent Spence, all the expressways, the funds that come through the state that then are dispersed to cities and counties, as well as the state roads that are running through all of our communities, right? That carry trucks for businesses from your facility, Winston, to really retail and all the stuff we're buying online or buying at our neighborhood store. Without the roads, they don't get there. So speak to what is that issue? We've talked about the gas tax. Maybe you could encapsulate the pieces of that, Ashli, for us in terms of infrastructure.
Yeah, and I mean, sometimes we talk about increased infrastructure investment and who would be against that, right? But we kind of like to be a little bit more descriptive of what we mean. And that simply means that we would like to see our gas tax raised. And Winston and I have talked about this before. You are not often going to hear me or him or anyone from the chamber advocate for higher taxes. But we know that this is a consumption-based tax. We know that we don't have enough money right now to maintain our current roads and bridges system, much less improve on it. And as we come out of a recession and we want to get back to work and we want to attract companies to Kentucky, there is no better way than to invest in our infrastructure. It really is key to kind of growing our state and attracting those businesses here.
Well said. And the House of Representatives is the Transportation Committee is led by Northern Kentucky, and of course Sal Santoro from Boone County, who's just doing an outstanding job of that as well. I think he totally agrees with everything you just said. So Winston, you see it, my Lord, in your business alone, what roads are required. And I'm sure the issues of you don't need bridges closed and you don't need highways closed.
Exactly. We see it all the time. You know, a damaged road damages vehicles. I mean, there's a direct cost to me and all of our transportation side when roads and bridges aren't maintained. And let's not even think about when there's a closure. All of our trucks that are right now going into Ohio to deliver groceries now have to take a much more lengthy route, and that burns more fuel, more time. There's just a much higher cost all around. So the effect on a closure is really widespread, especially when you have such a critical item like the bridge. And you know, the numbers, just like the interstate, are why it's widened regularly. The bridge has to, was not built for the number of vehicles that cross it every day.
Right.
So you have to take that, it's a good thing. The economy is growing, doing well. People are traveling. Merchandise is traveling across that bridge. Well, there's a cost to that. You have to maintain it and increase the size if necessary. But yeah, infrastructure is just a huge part of our focus because so many of our members depend on it. I mean, like you said, there's hardly a business anywhere that doesn't depend on good, solid infrastructure. So it can't be underestimated how important that is. And, no one likes to hear about a tax increase, but I think Kentuckians need to realize that it's not all borne by Kentuckians. There's so much of the fuel that is purchased on vehicles coming through. It's not just on us, as it would be in any state. So it's not as bad as it sounds, but it has to happen. Our infrastructure, there's a lot of things falling apart, and we have to maintain it.
And I know one of the things is there's a formula that allocates these dollars from the state. And I know that's something that a lot of people have talked about, that ultimately maybe one day that is also looked at to make sure that these dollars go to certain parts of the state. And we know that in Northern Kentucky, booming economy, we're always advocating for the leadership and the governor's mansion, as well as the House and the Senate. We want those dollars to be allocated here in our area as well. And as I'm sure you feel the same way, it's another piece of that puzzle, I think, that hopefully is resolved soon too. Well, let's go back to the unemployment and then we'll wrap up. You speak to the fund being down to zero, essentially, with this unprecedented unemployment that we hit, Ashli, and the advocacy. Maybe speak to that a little bit deeper about what that looks like to an employer, to some of your members, on that they take a percentage of their wages. And if those wages aren't there, there's not enough money going into the pot, right? So that the remaining percentage on everyone else who's out there potentially could go even higher.
Yeah, it is definitely going to go higher. We recently hired an economist at the chamber to kind of try to figure out, to quantify what employers' bills would look like come 2021. And so not only do we have to replenish the UI trust fund, we have to pay back an $800 million loan with interest from the federal government. And so our economist kind of said, looking at all the numbers and the different rates that we'll now have to pay, because we're moving from basically the best possible rate, Schedule A, to the worst possible rate, Schedule E, and that means an increase on every single employer across Kentucky. We think it's going to be about $100 per employee for next year increase. So some of our larger manufacturers, that's a several $1 million hit. And so we're looking at right now, typically employers do pay that the first quarter of the year. So by April, we're talking to the governor's office and to the legislature if we can put that off for a little bit, or maybe they can spread it out among 4 quarters. That might help. We know that some CARES Act dollars is going to go into the trust fund to help offset this. We're also looking at maybe even a tax credit of $100 per employee for businesses that have seen that UI tax increase. So right now, we know that the time is running short. We're looking at January in just a couple weeks. we want to make sure that businesses are not going to get hit at the first of the year. So we're trying to kind of throw all these things on the wall and see what sticks. But I do think there is a commitment from both the governor and the legislature to pass something this legislative session to take some of that burden off the employers of Kentucky.
Well, I know you're working hard to make that happen. So as you wrap up these topics, Winston, I would ask you, as a leader of this organization, what do you look at in terms of the future for business in Kentucky and supporting of your membership?
Well, it's the rebound. You know, there's just so many businesses that have been affected negatively in a huge way. You know, there's going to be a lot of fallout, and we're just trying to do the best we can to advocate for them in Frankfurt. I do not envy the legislature during this session. There is so much on their plate and so many demands from individuals and companies across the Commonwealth. There's just a lot to do, and I'm very excited to watch it all happen. I've got my fingers crossed that some of our priorities are going to come out. But that's, you know, the rebound and rebuild is our big thing for 21 and going forward. We just don't know how long this is going to last. The after effects, even once we get people well and the vaccine out, there's still a long way to go.
No question. Ashli, I'll let you end with your thoughts in terms of what do you look at in the vision of business in Kentucky in 2021?
Yeah, I agree with Winston. It's all kind of about a road to recovery. Hopefully we see the light at the end of the tunnel, but a lot of damage has obviously been done in the last 9 or 10 months, and it's going to take a while to get out of it. So we want to make sure that any kind of federal dollars that come to us or anything through the budget really goes into rebuilding our business community, especially some of the smaller businesses that have been hit pretty hard over the last 9 or 10 months, and making sure that our economy can bounce back. We want to be a place where, you know, good jobs come and businesses come to locate here. We need to get our workforce back to work. I talked about the high unemployment numbers. And so all of this has to kind of work together, the government, the chamber and businesses and the population of Kentucky, to make sure that we can see brighter days. And I think 2021, hopefully we'll have those. But there's quite a bit of work to be done in the next couple of months by the business community, by the legislature, by the governor, to make sure that can happen.
Well, and I feel very confident with you all leading the Kentucky State Chamber that the best is going to come out of this, and everybody will win at the end of this crazy 2020. And wish you guys the best of success in 2021.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having us.
Thank you very much. Kentuckians are tough, and I agree. We'll come out of this.
Indeed.